This video will talk about all the things that you need to think about when writing content for search engines. The first thing you need to do is think about SEO when you're writing your content. So you want to weave targeted keywords throughout the body copy. Oftentimes we say, you know what, just first write that first draft without thinking about SEO. Keep the keywords in mind and you might incorporate them once or twice, but then go back and weave the keywords throughout the body copy. You want to use similar phrases in addition to an exact match keyword phrase. This means that you're using variations that are very similar, but not an exact. Think singular, plural, ing, ed forms of your keywords. While they need to be exact, you can also break them up with punctuation. And so what this will allow you to do is put the words that people are typing into a search engine in an exact match format, but it will break it up when you read the content so it doesn't sound like you're repeating the keyword so much. Now, when we look at a page, we talked about this in our training, when we look at a page and identify what makes a page relevant to a specific keyword, we talked about how the first page isn't very relevant because there are only a couple repetitions throughout this large piece of content. The second one was not entirely relevant because all of the keywords were at the top of the page. Whereas the third article was very relevant because the keywords were actually used throughout the entire article. And if you were optimizing for multiple keywords, your page might look something like this. Now, when you're thinking about writing, we want to make sure that you're incorporating keywords into headlines, when in the SEO world, they're known as header tags. Header tags are H1, H2, and H3 tags that go into your CMS. Sometimes this might be, for example, the H1 tag might be labeled title or something like that. What we want to make sure you do is keep the focus on the terms that you want to rank highly for. So you don't want to necessarily write a primary headline that does not contain a keyword, especially if that's going to populate the page title tag. Header tags should not go in the template. So when you're designing a page, this doesn't apply day to day, but when you're designing a page, you want to make sure that the header tags actually go into the main body of the content, not in the header, footer, or left and right columns on the page. Now, once the content is complete, you want to focus on the title tag. The title tag is what shows up at the blue portion of your internet browser if you're using Internet Explorer up at the top of the window, but it also becomes the hyperlink in search engines. You want to make sure you strive for 65 characters with spaces, but know that sometimes up to 70 characters will display in Google. You want to make sure this is unique for every page. It's so important that search engines have actually created tools that will allow you to identify duplicate page title tags. You want to make sure that the content in the title tag reflects what the user will find on the page, and make sure you use those keywords. You want to make sure that it's enticing for someone to click. Again, you want to make sure that what someone typed in a search engine also shows up in the content so that they feel like it's very relevant. Know that this becomes a hyperlink in the search engines. You want this to be very keyword rich. At least one exact repetition is what you should strive for. And if possible, look at the individual words of maybe one or two of the other phrases and try and weave those in as well. The last thing is that you want to keep the site name at the end except for front pages. Now, the next thing you want to think about is the meta description tag, and this doesn't show up on the web page. However, it often will become the link description in a search engine, especially when somebody searches for your targeted keywords and your targeted keywords are showing up in the meta description. So you want to make sure that this is also enticing someone to click on your listing. The best practice is about 250 characters, including for your meta description. You want to make sure that, like the page title tag, it's unique for every single page, and you want to include all of your keywords. You want to make sure that sentences are less than 100 characters, including spaces. Now, what this is going to do is it's going to increase the chance that you don't have ellipses points in your description. So oftentimes the ellipses points, which we see right here at the end of the meta description or the link description, we want to make sure that those are not showing up in the middle of your description, because it actually results in a less than superior description to entice someone to click. And then the last thing we want you to do is go out to Google and see what descriptions you're competing against. Make yours more enticing. You may want to do this for the page title tag as well. The next thing is the meta keywords tag. So this is actually optional. It's not really used by search engines, but oftentimes it can make it easier for when you're managing SEO day to day that you can find which keywords are being targeted on any given page. You want to include only keywords or phrases that appear on the web page. Less than 10 keywords is usually the best practice. The next thing to think about is image alt text, also known as alternate or alternative text. This is the text that appears when your mouse hovers over an image. It's usually in a yellow box. You want to make sure that you write one sentence or phrase to describe the image or how the image fits into the page. To help you think about this, know that this was originally created for users who are blind and using screen readers. And so the screen reader actually reads the text in the image to inform the blind person there is an image here and this is what is in the image or how it is useful to someone who can see the page. You want to make sure that you're including keywords. You want to make the alt text unique for every image. Now, the last thing you want to think about is the image and HTML file names. And so you want to make sure that you're incorporating keywords into those. So for example, instead of intro-banner-image.jpg, you might try win-butler.jpg. And instead of maybe putting the aired date as the HTML file name, instead actually put what was aired on that date. Now, if you need to, you can incorporate the date into that, but the goal is to put what someone would actually be typing into a search engine. So if it's a program, you might want to put the program episode title.